Piper Chapman might be the nominal protagonist of Orange is the New Black, but across 7 seasons she proves time and time again that she is insufferable, self-centered, and very oblivious to her surroundings. So today we're gonna be talking about Piper's journey from a privileged liberal doing time to a self-anointed prison boss.
I'm gangsta, like with an A at the end.
Highlighting how each phase of her story only solidifies her status as the worst. So let's get into it. So from day one, Piper carries her privilege into prison like an invisible shield, assuming she's special. In season 1, episode 2, Piper unintentionally insults the prison chef Red's cooking, whining about the food quality as if she's a Yelp reviewer. And the result? Red and her kitchen staff retaliate by starving Piper out, refusing to serve her any meals for days. It's a harsh lesson for Piper. Her upper-class, middle-class manners and clueless complaints earn no favors on the inside.
You're getting starved to death!
But instead of genuine humility, Piper responds with melodrama. She'd literally rather starve than accept help from her ex, Alex, who offers her some food, to which Piper tosses it out of pride. And this is Piper's pattern from the start: create a problem, play the victim, and learn nothing. Now Piper's privilege streak continues as she navigates her relationship. Recall that she's in prison for a crime she actually committed, smuggling drug money for her girlfriend Alex years before. Yet, Piper still behaves as if incarceration is some cosmic mistake that happened to her. When her nice guy fiancé Larry visits, Piper initially hides the fact that Alex is incarcerated with her, and once the truth comes out, Piper proves her loyalty is paper thin, cheating on Larry with Alex in season 1, all while Larry faithfully waits on the outside. Piper justifies the infidelity with self-serving logic. Alex needed her. But as soon as Larry drifts into the arms of Piper's best friend Polly, Piper flies into a moral tizzy. In short, Piper can betray you, but God forbid you betray her. Right? Her hypocrisy already shines through.
And then you did the worst thing. You decided to fall in love.
She expects saint-like patience from Larry after she sleeps with Alex, and yet she cannot extend the same grace when the shoe is on the other foot. By season 2, Piper's self-pitying tendencies and manipulations are in full swing. When she finally gets furloughed to visit her dying grandmother, other inmates rightfully bristle at the special treatment. Then Piper briefly considers declining the furlough to appease her peers, but ultimately she takes it because Piper will put Piper first every single time. Now the thing is, her brief taste of freedom only reinforces her victim complex. At her grandmother's funeral, Piper hears how friends and family describe her situation, and she doesn't like the portrait they paint. In a tantrum of self-absorption, she tries to seduce Larry in a bathroom during the wake, as if regaining his attention might erase her own guilt and insecurity.
This is really over, isn't it?
But Larry wisely shuts that down, finally ending their engagement. Most egregious of all, Piper cannot stand to let Alex live a life apart from her. In season 2, episode 13, when Alex is out on parole and, quite sensibly, planning to skip town to avoid their vengeful drug boss, Piper does something crazy. She calls her ex-fiancé Larry and convinces his new girlfriend Polly to tip off Alex's parole officer, ensuring Alex gets caught with a weapon and sent back to prison, all under the pretense of protecting Alex.
And tell him that Alex Vause is violating her probation.
But truthfully, she was being selfish. Piper literally orchestrates Alex's rearrest so that she won't be lonely behind bars. Piper then admits what she did, claiming it was for Alex's safety when in truth, it was all about Piper's own fear of abandonment. And when Alex hears the truth, she essentially labels Piper a manipulative psycho. However, in Piper's own mind, she's the victim, and she tells herself and anyone who will listen that everyone keeps leaving her. However, the reality is, Piper engineers these tragedies and then wallows in them. Now, Piper's victim complex deserves its own spotlight. Time and time again, she casts herself as an unlucky heroine beset by cruel friends or fate, all while doing the very things to others that she claims to hate. A prime example, Piper furiously chastises Alex for not trusting her and for being secretive, even as Piper lies through her teeth and schemes behind Alex's back. In Season 3, when Alex grows justifiably paranoid that her old drug boss is after her, Piper shows zero sympathy. Instead, Piper mocks Alex's fear and even complains, "Maybe I don't like this version of you, Alex," essentially faulting Alex for trauma that Piper helped to create.
I caught that lolly person snooping in my cube this morning.
So?
She's such a hypocrite. Piper demands unwavering loyalty from Alex, but the moment that Alex struggles emotionally, Piper's patience runs out. The same pattern plays out in Piper's other relationships. She expects unwavering support from her friends and family, yet she's very quick to sell them out for her own benefit. For example, Piper berates her best friend Polly for stealing Larry, conveniently forgetting that Piper betrayed Polly first by neglecting their friendship and, of course, cheating on Larry to begin with. Piper loves to cry about how others have wronged her, all while dodging responsibility for the records she creates. And this poor me routine, let's call it Piper's victim queen persona, stays with her throughout the entire series. Now by Season 3, any pretense of Piper being an innocent or sympathetic character is long gone.
I'm gangsta. Like with an A at the end.
This is the phase where Piper Chapman breaks bad, or rather, becomes a tone-deaf knockoff of a criminal mastermind. Bored with mere survival, Piper decides to launch an illicit business selling inmates' used underwear to perverts on the outside, because why not monetize your prison stay? She grandiosely names her venture felonious Spunk and appoints herself CEO of the Panty Cartel. In Season 3, Episode 10 to 13, we see Piper's darkest, most manipulative side emerge as she exploits anyone necessary to make a profit.
I'm starting a business selling stinky panties to perverts.
At first, Piper underpays her employees, and when the other women catch on to the fact that Piper is basically running a sweatshop led by the savvy Flocka, they band together and strike for better pay. Then, facing her workers' grievances, Piper does not do the decent thing out of the goodness of her heart, she does it to maintain power. On Red's advice, Piper concedes and begins paying them in real money, but only so she can keep the scheme afloat. Also, the moment she feels her authority is threatened, Piper retaliates. She fires Flocka on a flimsy pretext, essentially for having the nerve to demand fair compensation. And she also does this to make a public example of her in front of the other women.
Oh, and Flocka? You're fired. What?
Piper then only rehires Flocka after the girl literally begs and explains that her mother is sick, and Piper rehires her at a lower starting wage, purely to rub it in. It's a power trip that shows that Piper has zero qualms about toying with people's livelihoods. Piper's treatment of those around her during the Panty Empire days is a hit list of selfishness. For starters, Alex Vause, Piper's own girlfriend, tries to warn her that the Panty scheme is turning into a real organized crime, the very thing that landed them in prison. Alex pleads with Piper to stop before it goes too far, saying she doesn't like who Piper is becoming. And Piper's response? Dismissive arrogance. She literally tells Alex to grow up and essentially says that Alex is not cool anymore now that she disapproves of the scam. Alex ends up then breaking up with Piper, stating plainly that she doesn't like who Piper has become, a nasty, power-drunk version of herself.
I'm out of that, and I'm out of this.
Piper, of course, is baffled that Alex does not support her criminal hustle. Larry Bloom. By this point, Larry is long gone, having narrowly escaped the Piper vortex in Season 2. But it's worth noting that Piper casually tosses aside her fiancé for this life of crime and never looked back. She doesn't spare a thought for Larry as she builds her contraband empire, except perhaps to use him later as a pawn. But we'll talk about that in a bit. Maria Ruiz. Maria. Here's where Piper truly crosses from petty to outright evil. Fearing competition from Maria, who starts a copycat panty operation for the Latina inmates in Season 4, Piper preemptively strikes. In Season 4, Episode 7, Piper frames Maria by stashing contraband in her area and tipping off the guards. Piper's careless move gets Maria, a new mother with a short sentence, slapped with extra prison time. Right? It seems like at this point Piper does not care that she's wrecking someone's life. All she cares about is eliminating her rival. Then when a tearful Maria later confronts Piper for adding years to her sentence, Piper coldly doubles down that she had to do what she had to do.
I'm going to bury you. You're never coming back from this.
And this is peak Piper, ruining someone else's future, yet somehow casting herself as the one who had no choice. Stella Carlin, Piper's Season 3 fling. Stella, played by Ruby Rose, gets seduced by Piper's outlaw side, and unfortunately for her, finds out too late how vindictive Piper can be. Right before Stella's release date, Piper discovers that Stella stole some of the hidden panty profits, and that's when she goes full sociopath. In Season 3, Episode 13 called Trust No B-Word, Piper secretly plants all the contraband she's collected, phones, drugs, even a shiv, into Stella's bank and then tips off the guards. Stella is then hauled off to Max on what was supposed to be her release day, utterly blindsided by Piper's betrayal. And does Piper feel remorse? No. Piper watches her go with an icy sense of satisfaction, delivering the most memorable and chilling one-liner. I don't f**k around. Let the people know.
You are so going to Max, inmate.
So by the end of Season 3, Piper has transformed from naive newbie to a self-anointed prison boss, or at least that's how she sees herself. She has broken bad, and she's absurdly proud of it. As Season 3 closes, Piper stands in the yard amid a gleeful crowd of inmates splashing in a nearby lake. And this was a temporary freedom after a fence collapse. Our girl Piper, fresh off ruining multiple lives, gazes around with a smug smile, convinced that she now runs the prison. However, this delusion sets the stage for one of the cringiest, most darkly comedic downfalls in the show's history. Now, Season 4 Piper is what happens when a little power goes straight to someone's head. Flush from her panty scheme successes, Piper enters Season 4 strutting like a wannabe crime lord. In the Season 4 premiere, she actually boasts, "I'm a gangster," with an A at the end. Pathetically convinced that she's now a bona fide gangster who should now be feared. It's a laughable assertion, even the show frames it as such, and Piper becomes a legend in her own mind.
I'm gangster. Like with an A at the end.
Determined to maintain control, Piper makes one disastrous decision after another. When the prison administration starts cracking down on the very panty smuggling ring Piper began, guards begin tossing cells, looking for contraband. Piper panics. She knows she's guilty, and in classic Piper fashion, her solution is to betray someone else. And who does she blame? Maria Ruiz and her Latina friends as the culprits, painting them as the masterminds of the entire operation. And the thing is, Piper essentially weaponizes her white privilege here, deflecting attention onto inmates of color to save her own skin. And this move inflames racial tension in the prison. However, Piper doesn't care. And for a brief moment, as if things could not get any worse, Piper even becomes the accidental founder of a white supremacist gang. Right? What?
Will you join me on a quest to keep our hallways clean and our hearts pure of purpose?
Piper forms a so-called community watch group of inmates to keep order, and unsurprisingly, the only inmates to rally to Piper's flag are the outright skinheads and white power enthusiasts. However, at this point, Piper is so oblivious that she actually welcomes their help. Now, when her minions begin chanting "White Lives Matter" in the showers, then Piper is like, oh, okay, maybe I made the wrong decision here. Now, the truth eventually comes to light. No one respects Piper's fake gangster persona. They're either laughing at her or using her, and Piper's attempt at playing prison gang leader only succeeds in painting a giant target on her back. Now the reckoning comes swift and hard. Maria and the other Dominicans are furious that Piper ratted them out, especially since Piper's lie tacked extra years onto Maria's sentence. So Piper's one ally, the hapless Stephanie Hapakuka, and I'm probably butchering that surname, I apologize, quickly realizes that Piper is about to throw her under the bus next. And the thing is, yes, Piper was willing to sacrifice her only friend to save herself. So Stephanie beats Piper to the punch. She then betrays Piper and delivers her to Maria's crew. In Season 4, Episode 8, Piper is grabbed by Maria's posse and dragged into the kitchen. In that tense scene, Piper's privileged bravado finally evaporates. She is terrified, and rightfully so. Maria then confronts Piper with the truth. Piper, you are a selfish snake who pretends to be tough and played the gangster role until real gangsters called her bluff. So as punishment, they hold Piper down and brand her with a swastika. And in one fell swoop, Piper's white savior fantasy implodes. Her security team of skinheads vanishes, and so much for loyalty. And Piper is left sobbing in pain, scarred as both a physical and figurative Nazi. Now to give Piper some credit, she finally seems to understand that she went way too far. Shaken and humbled, she admits in the aftermath that she went too far with Stella, with Maria, and all of it. Now Red, ever the tough loving mother figure, helps Piper literally rebrand the swastika into a less hideous window shape.
You can't go around with that horror.
I probably deserve it.
However, the thing is, even this act of contrition and atonement is mostly cosmetic, a bandage over Piper's gaping character flaws. Season 4 proved that when Piper tasted power, it revealed a part of herself she didn't know existed. And one might hope that this horrific experience would spur some real growth in Piper, but nope. Piper's story is far from over, and her ability to not learn her lesson is about to be tested on the outside. And then Season 6 arrives, and Piper is handed yet another stroke of cosmic luck. As a result of some bureaucratic maneuvering, Piper gets an early release. In the Season 6 finale, Be Free, Piper is shocked to learn she's been let out of prison ahead of schedule. So, in typical Piper fashion, even this blessing is all about her. She frets about leaving Alex behind, but there's no real acknowledgement that the other inmates, like her friend Tasty, are unfairly sentenced to life while Piper walks free. Piper has always benefited from privilege, and the end of her prison term is no different. She had a shorter sentence to begin with, and now she's out early, essentially for good behavior. Piper even manages to throw herself a wedding before she goes. And to give props where props are due, Piper does care for Alex and wants to lock that down before she leaves.
I now pronounce you Prison Mary. Hey, you may kiss the bride, and you may kiss the bride.
It's a weirdly happy ending, except the story isn't over when Piper steps outside the gates. We get to see Piper try to reintegrate into society in Season 7, and it's here the show drives home how little Piper really grows, despite endless chances. On the outside, Piper immediately struggles with the mundane realities of freedom, and her post-prison entitlement rears its head. The thing is, she expects to slot right back into her old life, but society is not so welcoming to a felon, even a privileged one. Piper then couch surfs at her brother Cal's house, imposing on him and his wife and newborn baby. She then half-heartedly looks for work. Then, when Piper's father initially gives her the cold shoulder, apparently embarrassed by the whole prison thing, she wilts, acting like a scolded child. But of course, Daddy comes around, and before long Piper's dad uses his connections to land her a low-level job in which she gets to work in his office making copies and fetching coffee. It's not glamorous, but it's a stable gig at the moment, one that many fellow ex-cons could only dream of. At this point, Piper has no idea how good she has it. Her supportive family basically ensures she won't end up homeless or destitute, yet Piper still mopes around and whines that her life is not on track. And at this point, it's very hard to watch her complain about, say, making only minimum wage when we see other characters like Tasty contemplating taking their own life because they have no hope at all. The contrast is stark, but Piper can only see Piper's problems. Most tellingly, Piper remains fixated on her relationship drama, as if she's learned nothing from her past mistakes. Alex is still in prison for a few years, so Piper begins navigating the awkwardness of a prison marriage with one spouse free and one locked up. So, in an attempt to be cool, Alex is like, "Piper, I know I won't be getting out for a long time, so it's okay if you sleep with other people." So Piper's like, "Bet," and she tests this freedom immediately. And the thing is, neither fling fulfills her, and Piper realizes the only thing she wants is just Alex.
You're going to be such a treat to look at all evening. You're beautiful.
But rather than recommit and patiently serve her time on the outside, Piper continues to make everything messy. When Alex ends up entangled with a CO, yes, Alex has her own fling inside the prison. Piper goes into jealous meltdown mode. In a moment that encapsulates Piper's inability to truly grow, she barges back into the life of her ex-fiancé Larry, the man she betrayed years ago, seeking advice and validation. In the series finale, Piper literally shows up on Larry's doorstep, admitting she has no clue what she's doing with her life. It's a full circle moment. Piper began the series leaning on Larry while sneaking around with Alex, and ends the series leaning on Larry while conflicted with Alex.
You wanted to be with Alex. You always wanted to be with Alex.
Oh, Larry, I wanted to be with you.
I guess the more things change, the more Piper stays the same. Ultimately, Piper cannot imagine a life that is not centered on Piper, and despite landing a steady job and an apartment through sheer nepotism and luck, Piper decides to throw it all aside to chase Alex. When Alex gets transferred to a prison in Ohio, Piper dramatically chooses to uproot herself and move to Ohio as well, so she can be near her wife for visitation. On one hand, it is a romantic gesture, but on the other hand, it reveals that Piper's world still revolves around what Piper wants. She wants Alex, so rules and stability be damned. She'll even break parole if she has to, and she almost does. Now the series' final montage shows Piper in Ohio, seemingly content with visiting Alex on the weekends. It's a sweet image on the surface, but one can't shake the fact that Piper ended up right where she was at the beginning, defining herself through a relationship, making impulsive choices, and skating by on privilege. So, after 7 seasons, it's clear that Piper's growth is very minimal. She lies, cheats, backstabs, all while claiming the moral high ground, and routinely blames others when things go wrong. Whether she's playing the victim queen or the gangster boss, Piper's defining trait is blinkered self-involvement. Now the show's genius was increasingly focusing on the ensemble of far more sympathetic, self-aware inmates, because Piper, by design, remained insufferable to the end. In the final accounting, Piper Chapman sucks not because she was a terrible villain, but because she was exactly the kind of person she had always been warned not to be: selfish, sanctimonious, and blind to her own flaws. So, Piper may have survived Litchfield, but as this video has shown with episode after episode of evidence, that does not make her likable or wise. It just makes her Piper, and Piper sucks. That's it for the video. Like and subscribe if you like it. Let me know if you want me to do somebody else, and I'll see you in the next one.